During the 1950s and 60s, Alabama was a hotbed of activity surrounding the civil rights movement. Selma, Birmingham, and Montgomery took the world stage and came into national and international homes, following bombings and brutal attacks at churches, homes, bridges, and beyond. Selma was the site of much social justice activity and tragedy. On March 7, 1965, hundreds of civil rights marchers tried to travel out of Selma on U.S. Highway 80 over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. They were peacefully marching for voting rights, with civil rights activist John Lewis as one of their leaders. At the bridge, state troopers and a posse of lawmen were waiting to stop them. Joanne Bland was a child at the time and shares the story of her experience on Bloody Sunday and growing up in Selma.
Joanne, I read about you, and I know that you were arrested 13 times before the age of 12. How is it that you were out and about and doing all these things related to civil rights at that young age?
My grandmother, Sylvia Johnson, came to live with us when my mom died. I was 3 years old. Grandmother had lived in Detroit, so they had some freedoms that we didn't have. And when she came home, she couldn't understand how things had not changed here, too. And well, one day, I was on this street, Broad Street. There's a drugstore still there called Carter's Drugstore. I wanted to sit at that counter. They had a lunch counter. And the white kids would be sitting there spinning around on those stools, licking those ice cream cones and those milkshakes from those beautiful glasses, and it looked like so much fun. I wanted to sit at the counter, but my grandmother said I couldn't. She said, colored children, as we were called then, can't sit at the counter. And she pointed over my shoulder to the counter, and she said, when we get our freedom, you can do that too. I became a freedom fighter that day. I started going down to First Baptist with my sisters to the meetings of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And they tried to teach me the principles of nonviolence. And I grew up in George Washington Carver homes, where that became the center of the movement. On Bloody Sunday, I'm a kid. I'm 11 years old. I might have been outside because I didn't hear any of the preparations, because my sister told me later that they said it would be a possibility of violence. And so when they started to line up on what we call the playground at George Washington Carver homes, and we started to walk. It's a Sunday, so everything downtown was closed. But it was this eerie silence, because normally we get heckled or something, you know. When I crested the bridge and could see across, I saw the policemen lined across all 4 lanes. I knew we were not going to Montgomery when I saw that. As I descended further, I saw the service roads were filled with police cars and me, and some even sitting on horses. John Lewis asked permission to pass. When suddenly I hear what I thought were gunshots and people screaming. I didn't know they were beating people, but I thought they were killing them, just shooting them. I didn't know. I was too far back to really see. But before we could turn to run, it was too late. They came in from both sides, the front and the back, and the horses. So I remember people falling down and laying, bleeding, not moving, and you couldn't stop to help them or you'd be beaten too. We tried to get back across the bridge, but that's where it was a bottleneck. The tear gas was there in this big cloud. I saw this horse and this lady, and I don't know what happened. That was the last thing I heard. It was the sound of her head hitting that pavement. The next thing I remember, I was right across the street in the back of a car, and my head was in my sister Linda's lap, and Linda was crying. When I became fully awake, I realized it was her blood. She had been beaten on the bridge and had wounds in her head that required 35 stitches, 28 in the back of her head and 7 over her right eye. She grabbed me. I screamed when I realized it was blood. She grabbed me out of the car, snatched me out of the car, and we started running, just running. And the church where SNCC was headquartered was on the next corner, First Baptist Church. We ran into the church thinking we'd be safe, but we were not. They came in the church and started beating people all over again. It was horrible. No, what happened at that bridge didn't stop at that bridge. It happened down in our neighborhood all night long.
I mean, I can't even say anything because it's just so horrible. And the fact that you guys were children.
Yeah.
That this would happen to children.
Yeah, they didn't care. They just didn't care. They tried, this was one way to stifle the movement. That Tuesday when Dr. King came back, he organized them again. I didn't want to play anymore. Whatever the cost of this freedom was just too much for me. So I was gonna stay on the playground and play. But my dad came and found me and he said, because my sisters told on me, and he said that you have to go back. If you don't go back, it means they won. I went, but I was afraid. When I crested that bridge and saw the same scene, and this time Dr. King himself asked permission to pass. Police told him the same thing. I was close enough this time to hear it. In the line, we were walking 2 by 2. And I just braced myself because I thought they were gonna attack again. But they didn't. This time, Dr. King and Dr. Abernathy knelt down, and after prayer, he and Dr. King led us back to Brown Chapel, where he told us he had applied for a court order that would give us the legal right to walk from Selma to Montgomery if we so wanted to, but more importantly, be protected. It was signed on the 17th of March, and on the 21st, we left Brown Chapel one more time, came over this bridge, and those same policemen had to protect us all the way from Selma to Montgomery. And by the time I got to the Hall's farm, which was our first stop, David Hall's farm, I didn't want any more freedom again. My feet hurt me so bad. But I'm proud today that I did do it. And I'm proud that I was a part of that. And I think it's important that we tell our own stories. And it's a whole different ball game when you walking with somebody that was there. And they realize it wasn't that long ago that we still have mountains to climb.
Wasn't that long ago, but wow, I mean, I had read your story and I had heard another interview with you, but now I'm sitting here with you and it makes me so sad, like, that this happened. Like, but what an amazing person you are. You're so, like, I was like, oh.
Don't be sad.
Well, like what you've done for so many people. I mean, it's helped so many people and you were just a child.
And I hope it continues to help. Each time I tell my story, I like to think someone is empowered to help change that. Young people who, I was 11 years old and was a part of this. And young people today have to realize where we've been as a nation in order to take us where we need to go. So I believe social movements are like jigsaw puzzles. Everyone is a piece, right? If your piece is missing, baby, the picture's not complete. So
yeah.
This is your piece in the puzzle for social change. And my piece, telling this story so we know where we've been. And I thank you for that.
Well, no, I thank you for coming out and telling your story, because I know you've told it many times, and I thought about that, and I thought about it, but it's so important. Yeah, it's so important. You have to keep telling it because it's really important.
Yes.
And that history is...
Hearing Joanne's story firsthand makes my walk over the bridge even more meaningful. On March 21st, 1965, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led thousands of demonstrators on a 5-day, 54-mile march from Selma, over the bridge, and on to Montgomery, where they would congregate at the steps of the Capitol on March 25th. Joanne was on that march.